Hi, I'm Jessica Paxton, afternoon host here on The Current, and I am joined today by Chris Seefried and Marley Munroe, a.k.a. Lady Blackbird, who are in town in support of the new album Slang Spirituals. You are an incredibly amazing and powerful performer. I have to say that session just now, I feel like I'm getting a lump in my throat right now just telling you how powerful and beautiful that was. Both of you guys, absolutely incredible. So you've been described as the Grace Jones of the jazz world, which I'm sure is, how do you live up to the name Grace Jones? But I can say for me, listening to your music, I hear Grace Jones, I hear Gloria Gaynor, I hear Roberta Flack, I hear Shirley Bassey. But mostly I hear you. I hear Lady Blackbird. And I know there's been a lot of comparisons. And you do have, kind of a throwback sound that pays homage to these female soul singers of the 60s and 70s. But the output, the creative output that you're doing now feels so relevant, so contemporary, so current. And it makes me feel a lot with the album Slang Spirituals, concepts of inclusivity and joy and freedom and empowerment. And so here I've just taken over the whole conversation. I just want to say thank you. I just want to say thank you. It's such an inspiring and beautiful body of work.
Wow, thank you very much.
Thank you. It's really a thrill having you here. So if you don't mind, can we talk a little bit about your start for people who might not be as familiar with you? I understand you started singing as a toddler in church and got your first recording deal at age 12?
I did, yeah. I grew up in a very small town, so there wasn't a whole lot of outlets or, what can you do? Where can you go? So it was like, local baseball games and weddings and churches. So eventually signed a deal out of Nashville at 12.
Wow.
Christian label. And that didn't, that only lasted so far. Nothing was actually released. Then moved out to LA, and I ended up signing with Epic Records eventually. And then I was actually dropped.
It happens to the best of us. I was going to say.
And, went back to the drawing board and ended up meeting up with Chris, and we just had this connection and started writing everything. We've got such a huge catalog of all types of genres and music, and finally found our voice or our thing, which was Black Acid Soul.
Mm-hmm.
So we started recording this, the first album, this project of more reduced project that focused more, on my voice is what he wanted to do. It actually started with from a song called Nobody's Sweetheart that was on Black Acid Soul that kind of made that shift of, seems to be really working, and the way people were responding. So that's how it began.
That's really...
Well, and I've read articles that have, in fact, said that, it was meeting Chris that everything kind of came together and clicked, because you did recognize something and heard something that said, hey, you had these other deals, you had these other projects, and it probably didn't really feel authentic to you. Therefore, it maybe really didn't go anywhere. But then you guys met and you recognized this thing. And it's like, you can now be true to yourself, make the music you want to do, but this, being in a setting that really showcases who you are and what you do. And I feel like you guys have found, just such an amazing relationship creatively. And, the testament of that is Black Acid Soul and now Slang Spirituals.
Yeah.
Which is just so exciting. I would, if you don't mind, since we are in Minneapolis, and I read about how you were in the studio recording a cover of Nina Simone's Blackbird, which, again, a song recorded in 1963, fast forward to 2025, feels all the more relevant. But that in the recording of, you recorded this song and tell me if I'm not sharing this story correctly, but when it was released, very coincidentally, very serendipitously, it was around the time of the murder of George Floyd.
Yeah.
And so it resonated even that much more with listeners and with listeners all around the globe. And my understanding is that then where the moniker Lady Blackbird that you now use came from.
Lady Blackbird came, it was actually just very random. I mean, the project started with Blackbird and like you said, that it had been recorded, it just hadn't been released yet. And then unfortunately, there was that tie-in. But the name was just very random. We were in the studio. Blackbird started the project because when we did start talking about, this kind of reduced sound, I loved that song for years, and I had tried singing it before live once, and it just didn't quite click and work. And then later on, when we were talking about this, the type of music and song it would be, I put it back to the table and I said, I've loved this song for years. This might actually be one that would work. And he hadn't actually heard of the song and heard, so played it for him, and we recorded the demo kind of like right then and right there. But that kind of starting the project, it was so random in the studio. It's like, you had to just call yourself that. I'm like, I kind of really like it.
There's somebody Blackbird. But that tune felt so central to the record. It was the first vocal she did. So we had the vocal from the demo, and then as when we went in to record the record, we brought in the vocal stem and had the band improvise around the vocal, and actually recorded a bunch of tunes first because we knew that would be sort of a violent sort of musical violence baked into the idea of what we were going to do musically, and when we finished the record, it just felt so much like the central theme of the album. In fact, the way the album Black Acid Soul finishes is with an instrumental called Black Acid Soul, which sort of reflects that same kind of musical intensity,
It's such an incredible story. And again, it just feels like it was meant to be, like the universe was speaking.
Really, truly.
I have to say, you referred to your sound as reduced, which I think can have sort of like a less than meaningful connotation. And to me, I'm like, no, the beauty, it's almost like, I wouldn't even say reduction. It's like the stripped down, getting down to that bare bones is what is so big and so beautiful and so powerful. And I think sometimes we get really lost in all the bells and whistles, and you get down to the basic, and you're like, that is the soul of soul. Like that is what it is all about. So fast forward to Slang Spirituals, just an incredible album. We've been playing Like a Woman a lot here at the Current. Just an incredible song. I have to say, when we first started spinning it, we had just wrapped up. The hosts every year sort of vote for their favorite songs from the previous year. And I'm always at the end of the year going, I don't even remember what came out this year. And the first time I heard Like a Woman, I was like, I'm putting that on my list for 2025, because that is going to be on the top of my list for 2025.
Thank you.
So what does it mean to like a woman? Like, what is, I mean, to me, I hear that and I think, what is to love like a woman? What is to live like a woman? What is to be like a woman?
I mean, gosh, just perfection. And there's nothing greater than the love of a woman. There's nothing stronger than the love of a woman. There's nothing better than being a woman. So it's basically a love song to all women, for all women.
And we need that. We need that. And to me, I hear it's about resilience. It's about empowerment. It's about strength. It's about being nurturing and being able to be fragile, but at the same time, incredibly strong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And unbreakable. Absolutely.
That's, I get so much of my own personal inspiration from that song and many others on the album that I,
Thank you.
And in fact, talking about that, so I mentioned before, we've all commented on, you have this great look, and I feel like how you express yourself with your fashion, with your hair, the way you carry yourself is certainly an extension of the power you bring to your music. And I read a quote that you had said something, you know who you are, live life proudly. And I thought, oh my God, it's something, again, so simple, but we have to be reminded of that. And we need to hear, you have to actually pay attention to those words.
Absolutely.
And think about that. And do you find that, as you're out performing, like you're going to be performing tonight, is that a message that you are intentionally sharing with your listeners and your audiences?
Slang Spirituals is the whole body of work is about redemption and freedom and acceptance, and not acceptance, for other people, accepting yourself, finding your own and accepting yourself. You don't need anyone's approval. You don't need anyone's acceptance. You have to accept yourself,
Mm-hmm.
And it's about that freedom and living exactly who you are, proudly.
Proud.
Yeah.
And I guess I have to say that, there's something about the release of this album for me. I know it came out in September. Fast forward to April 2025. It's kind of a strange world, for lack of a better way of putting it.
To say the least.
To say the least. And the fact that we have to remind ourselves to live life proudly. We have to remind ourselves that it's okay to be ourselves. I love, I'm so glad you brought up the word freedom. And to be free, and what does freedom actually mean? And it's not only freedom for yourself, but freedom for everyone around you. And being a part of that collective, sense of freedom.
Or having to fight so hard for it.
Yeah.
And to keep it. It's just
and does
unreal.
it feels sometimes like one step forward, two steps back kind of thing. And I guess that's another thing that I love about your sound and your music is that it is kind of a throwback to what people might refer to as like 60s, 70s soul, R&B, gospel, a little disco element in there on a couple songs. But again, you go back all those decades and then you go jump forward in that time capsule. And I really feel like the sound and the message is as important today, if not more, than it was then.
And that was such a great, Black Acid Soul was mainly covers. I'm very proud of it, but that was the beautiful, added
paying tribute.
Yeah, piece of Slang Spirituals is it being all originals. So really kind of getting into to tell my story and to share those messages, things that I've been through or, things that are happening. So that was a very personal piece that I got to express on the album. So that was something.
I, for one, am grateful for your willingness to express that and share that with everyone because it truly is powerful. And I got to read one more quote that I read that I thought was so. You said, it's about having the freedom to be who the bleep you want with no need for an explanation. That's how I feel now. May we all feel that way.
Yeah.
Thank you both so very much. And I can't wait to see the show tonight. It's going to be
I'm so
amazing.
Happy you're coming.
Congratulations on just an incredible album.
Thank you
Can't
so
wait
much.
for more.
Thank you.
The Current is public media made possible thanks to member support.